episode 68 of This and That and What the Fuck Else. In this one I will be talking about the green stuff and a bit about Hungary and the immigrant problem and NATO. The past few days, about a week, I could not maintain my regular schedule because of the load shedding. I was also working on a project which I called Wolkstaat, Cloud State in English, and I did 3 publications on that. To me that is an important topic to be considered, but in the meantime the world kept going and the craziness reached new levels. Now let's start with the green thing. This green dream is turning into a very dark nightmare, and these guys are absolutely relentless in pushing that agenda, while the realities is showing everywhere that that green dream needs to be reconsidered and tuned, because it is not working. The Europeans are facing a very dark and a very cold winter. Here in South Africa we have a situation that we have to cope with rolling blackouts. They call it load shedding, but it's rolling blackouts. And I see that Bangladesh was struck by a blackout. What I am seriously thinking about is what the hell is going on right across the globe. Electricity systems are failing. What is the reason for it? Is it part of a plan? I've said it previously and elsewhere that in South Africa we better look carefully at what is behind the things that are hitting us, because what we are seeing looks a lot like a plan. The transition was smoothly from lockdown into load shedding. And what does those two things have in common? Control. And the political elite is desperate to retain their control over the population that they managed to steal during the pestilence. And they're not giving up on it. And it is quite clear that there's a selected elite group in South Africa that has got all the power. And that power is slipping, and we can see it. The biggest problem for them is the country is falling apart, and they won't be able to contain the masses. Once things go really sideways, they won't be able to do it. And I have mentioned it in another discussion, that we should not be surprised if we wake up one morning and the whole political cabal elite has disappeared from South Africa and they've jumped ship. I won't be surprised, because things are really getting out of hand. But let's get back to the green stuff. Ireland would need to cull up 1.3 million cattle to reach climate targets. With more than a third of the country's greenhouse gases coming from farming, Dublin faces a huge pressure over the reduction aims. Irish farmers would need to cull 1.3 million cattle to satisfy the current EU climate targets, which we are being misled. This is bullshit, this is nonsense, and there is that guy in Australia that is fighting like hell against it. It shows how ridiculous this CO2 claims are, but unfortunately the drivers of this agenda has got all the power. Now you can look at this next slide. Carbon dioxide, CO2, man-made is 3.25%, natural 96.775%. The natural sources of CO2, and then you can look at that. And then you must take in consideration that the carbon dioxide is an extremely small percentage of the atmosphere. And then we look at this one, which is just amplifying the ridiculousness of this green agenda. This is a picture of an electric car charging station that are popping up everywhere. Here's an interesting fact. That 350 kilowatt generator uses 12 gallons of diesel fuel per hour. and it takes 3 hours to fully charge a car to get 200 miles. That is 36 gallons to 200 miles. 5.6 miles per gallon. Proof you can't fix stupid. That is the truth. And then this is something that the mainstream media does not want to mention. Global warming is part of natural cycle, and there's nothing we can actually do to stop these cycles. The world is now facing spending a vast amount of money in tax to try to solve a problem that doesn't actually exist. There's the truth. And then there's just this picture that I picked up on Twitter. Snow in Johannesburg, 10 September 1981. Think about it. And then here is a table of the green madness. 500 tons of ore to refine 25 pounds of lithium. 900 to 1,000 gallons of fuel to move the ore. Lithium is refined by using sulfuric acid. The mine at Thacker Pass requires 75 semi-loads of acid a day. One electric battery for a Tesla requires 25 pounds of lithium, 60 pounds of nickel, 44 pounds of manganese, 30 pounds of cobalt, 200 pounds of copper, 400 pounds of aluminium, steel and plastic. To produce one battery takes tremendous amounts of energy supplied by coal, nuclear or gas-fired plants. Look at those things and think about it. And then this one, you're going to stop the thing if you want to look at the fine details. What will our diets look like in 2030? Guys, this is pure madness. Look at that. Synthetic nutrients, seed oils, intermittent fasting, alternative proteins, micro livestock, which is actually insects. This is what the World Economic Forum is planning for us. And you're worried about Putin. Australia rolls out climate change legislation despite the fact that no one can provide the science to back it. The CSIRO have never advised to anyone that carbon dioxide from human activity is a danger to humans. What a deception is this? And there's a lot of exposure being given to what this guy is saying. And it is ridiculous what is happening. But the Aussies, they are done. 94% of them has been bitten with a snake poison, and things are looking bad. And then they come with this ridiculous shit about their climate change. Now we get to Hungary. Hungary does not plan to impose any restrictions on the issuance of visas to Russian citizens. The head of the foreign ministry said Hungary will also not support the new EU energy sanctions against Russia proposed by Estonia. Unfortunately, Hungary is fighting a lonely fight, but it looks now like more of the East Bloc countries in the EU is beginning to look at what Hungary is doing and swinging in that direction. Hungary should rescue itself from the dictatorship rule of the EU. EU countries are not allowed to be sovereign and adopt policies that are in the interest of their citizens, and if they do, they will be punished by the EU. And that is the truth. And I listened to a discussion about Orban a few days ago, and one of the guys in the debate said that Hungary is at this point in time the best positioned of all the EU countries to leave the EU, primarily because Hungary is not using the euro. So Hungary is not under the control of the ECB, that is the European Commission Bank. I think Orban must make one move. It might be painful, but he must make the move if his nation wants to survive. How sickening. EU Parliament has decided Hungary is no longer a full democracy, but a voting autocracy. Whenever it suits them, a country can be declared to be evil so that the West can justify its aggression. EU Parliament is thoroughly infiltrated. And I think things are going to go wrong for the EU very soon. And here's just another article about the same thing. Hungary is no longer a full democracy, says European Parliament. The European Parliament has not even been elected. Who the fuck are they to talk about democracy? Then we get to the immigrations. They're not immigrants. They're trained to dispose of you, your home and your worldly possessions. They're in every village and every town and city. One day they will be giving orders to attack en masse, and the sleeping Irish will be ambushed. And it is unfortunately not the Irish only. It is the whole of Europe, except Poland and Hungary. Poland and Hungary did not allow the immigrants. And then there was this interesting thing that I saw. How about passing this law? If you sneak into the United Kingdom, you will never be a citizen and never receive any benefits, and you will be returned. No exceptions. The time has come for radical change. They call for radical change. This is simple logics. I can't understand. What the fuck went wrong in Europe? Influx of 18,000 Ukrainians in Scotland could be forced to sleep in emergency refugee centres, with at least 1,700 already living on cruise ships after 10,000 Brits pulled out of homes for Ukraine scheme. They are wisening up. But I think it's too late. And then there's this disturbing thing. Turkey, convoy of light consisting of 40,000 Syrian refugees in Turkey began its march towards Germany. Guys, look at that. How the hell is the German authorities going to cope at their border? But they don't cope, they just let them stream in. It's you, the ordinary citizens, that will have to cope with this. According to the Syrian TV channel Orient News, the Turkish government is preparing a new hybrid attack against Greece, with the creation of a caravan of 40,000 migrants that will be deployed on the Evros border, reminiscent of the events of 2020. I find it quite interesting that they say now Turkey is mustering these guys. These guys are in Turkey already. What the fuck are they doing there? I don't know what Orban's plan is here. And then we get to this, some little interesting info for the beer drinkers. You can read through that and look at all those things, and then you can tell the people that you're doing it for your health. And then there's this interesting map. Countries where the US government has admitted to launching military interventions, and look at that map. Almost the whole earth. This fucking warmongering Americans has been everywhere. Look at that map. And then there's this silly stupid thing of that mayor of New York. He's now screaming like hell because the migrants are bussed to New York, and he's calling for a state of emergency and the fuck knows what. But they are the people that are behind the Democrats that are allowing that southern border of America to be flooded. And the southern states must cope with this every day. Hypocrites. Their virtue signaling is a fraud. Florida governor takes credit for sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard. This is old news in any case, but I just had to remind you of that. And then there was this from the Babylon Bee. Martha's Vineyard resident calls police to report a Hispanic in the neighborhood not operating a leaf blower. Well, what can I say? And then there's this about NATO. Ukraine is being used by the US to fight this proxy war, but even if you don't believe it, Russia beat Ukraine a long time ago, and the war is between NATO and Russia. Ukraine is just a country that NATO chose to have the soldiers die in to achieve their goal of weakening Russia. And that is the truth, but very few people really want to see it, and the mainstream media will never publish something like that. And then there's just this snippet. As NATO vehicles under the US flag start to roll into Moldova, locals literally stand in front of tanks and chant, "We don't need NATO." Police and troops are summoned to remove them. This iconic movement won't be on your TV. People don't want war pushed on them. And I was quite interested to see this, but it looks to me like, again, those Eastern Bloc countries are waking up to what the fuck NATO is doing to them. And then we get to that what a fuck moment, and let's smile about it and think about it and have some happy thoughts. I went out to buy bread, and when I saw her, I decided to steal it. And look at that policewoman. That is someone, it could be nice if she arrests you. And on that note, please like, subscribe and share the thing, and thank you for your support.